My guest today is the novelist Greg Field. Greg, you started writing quite young. Were you into books and reading as a kid?
Well, funnily enough, my parents were always on at me to read. They couldn't understand why I didn't like it much. But if we went to a library, it was all serious and silent and slow and not lively at all. One summer, though, I was in my grandma's sitting room and she had this whole pile of books, which she let me play with because I liked the covers. And I started leafing through, and then maybe reading a word or two, and then a page, and then that was it.
And what about at school?
Well, in fact, school added another dimension. We'd got school books, of course, history books and maths books that we'd work through, though I much preferred finding out about stuff online. But there was one particular teacher we had, who at the end of every day would get out a book, maybe poems or a story, and read them to us. It was like music, like a film, these great pictures his voice summoned up in my mind. And that's when I knew I had to be a writer, so I could make that happen too.
So, how did it feel when you eventually achieved that?
Well, I was so scared when I was writing my first novel. Scared that nobody would read it, that I'd never finish it, or I'd lose it, or that the publisher would change her mind, etc., etc. I can't tell you what a relief it was to see it on the shelves in a bookshop. Then the next one was, by comparison, a bit of a disappointment. The reviews were pretty bad and it never sold as well. But these days I just have this nice, calm feeling about the whole business.
Tell us about where and how you write.
I write in a small room at the top of my house. There's no sound, no music, no traffic, and that's what I need to get a sense that my words are filling something. I've tried writing in other rooms in the house, but I find it harder to settle down to work. I don't use a computer, just a pen, any kind of pen. I don't have a special one anymore. Losing it was too traumatic. And I do look out of the window a lot. And I drink cup after cup of tea. And yes, it's a special cup.
So, tell us about your next novel.
Next is a book for teenagers. At least, I hope they'll like it. I never tried writing one before. It's set about 100 years ago, and it's about school-aged children in the country who are sent off from their farms to work in a factory at a young age, and the hard times they have. Like all my historical novels, it has a serious message, but there are lighter moments too.
Any advice for budding young writers out there, Greg?
Well, if it's your first book, does that mean first person? People often write their first book about themselves and from the I perspective. Of course, you're likely to write best about what you know, to be most convincing. But bear in mind that if you do that, there might be a lot of stuff you can't include. And your readers may want to know about other things that you don't see.
Anything to avoid?
Well, it's very dull if you set everything in the same place, of course, or always have them wearing the same clothes. Their choice of clothes can tell you about a character's personality. And an important aspect of writing fiction is the use of symbols, for example, the weather representing how people are feeling. But resist the urge to spell everything out. The sky was grey, fine. Not the sky was grey and John felt as grey inside as the sky was, etc.
That sounds like good advice. Thanks, Greg.